So when I looked at how behemoth state government is and the out-of-control spending and rampant fraud, it just completely took me aback.
And when we talk about fraud, Ryan Irwin, I mentioned it earlier, healthcare is an area where the spending is sick. And there's a lot of fraud going on.
Well, healthcare continues to grow in terms of the percentage of our state budget and our federal budget. And one of the problems is with the government inefficiency that we have from top to bottom, we can't identify who's supposed to pay the bills. So in many instances, we've got government paying bills that actually belong to private insurers.
Ryan Irwin is the president of Ryan Irwin Associates. He joins me along with State Representative Carl Seel as we're taking a look to find savings, to find money. Now, Representative Seel, when I served in the Congress of the United States on the Health Subcommittee for Ways and Means, we were dealing all the time with Medicaid and health care to the indigent and money sent out to the states. Here we talk about access, but one of the concerns that has been around but is especially acute now is this whole question of how we deal with people who, they have private insurance, but they're also ending up with state money?
You know, JD, as I was talking about, I came out here today to really say that we can balance the state's budget without a tax increase. And without creating more debt. We can actually do that. One of the best ways we can do that is reduce fraud. People that, for example, reducing fraud. Go figure, you know. There are people sometimes that apply for health insurance but don't tell us they have some other form of insurance that happens. They don't tell us they got a pension from Pennsylvania. And believe it or not, JD, some people's IDs are actually stolen.
No, we can't.
Can you believe that?
We can't believe it. This sign right here, Carl, I think makes sense. It's right down front.
Save billions, enforce the law.
Save billions, enforce laws. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, it makes too much sense for down here, though, I'm afraid, JD. It might just make too much sense. But I'm excited to report that we can balance that budget with no tax increase and no debt financing. And a large part is going to be fraud reduction. You know, people, for example, too, you've got people that have some type of insurance but forget to tell us about that. And at the tail end, sometimes you have unscrupulous medical providers that overbill or double bill. So if you ever get a bill from Social Security or something like that on medical treatment you never received, send it back and remind them that that's fraud. So,
well, let's put a number to it, Ryan Irwin. How much money are we talking about in terms of Arizona and health care spending fraud?
Well, the GAO about 3 years ago said that 13% of Medicaid recipients nationwide have some other form of coverage. They said that 9% roughly here in the state of Arizona have that coverage. 9% of the Arizona access or Medicaid budget is about $650 million per year. If you take just the state share of that, you're still talking about close to $120 million a year. So and that's just in bills that could be paid by Access or Medicaid that actually belong to some other insurance thing. That doesn't account for fraud. It doesn't account for double billing. It doesn't account for medical errors. It simply accounts for the state of Arizona potentially paying a bill that doesn't belong to the state of Arizona.
And again, because, you know, no wonder I served in math was one of my worst subjects. Give it to me again. We're looking, if you had to give the estimate of the savings we could have right now, Ryan Irwin, what would it be?
Well, it's easy. Thank you. It's $120 million a year, and because of a bill that you helped pass, the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005, the federal government actually gives incentives to states who go out and fix this problem. Unfortunately, a lot of states are resisting fixing that problem.
But we have the initiative and incentive now in Arizona, and we have State Representative Carl Seel. So, Representative Seel, tell us about your legislation.
I've authored several pieces of legislation to enact the False Claims Act so that we can enforce the law here in Arizona, so we can enforce the federal law that you helped create, so we get local law enforcement enforcing the law, because this is where we implement those federal programs. So we're going to better enforce the law. I've got bills to reduce fraud across all of state government, to use advanced computer software so that we can see, instead of looking through the haystack for the needle, we just find the needle and deal with the fraud. I mean, if you can imagine people like fraudulently using someone's ID, as I said earlier, that's pretty rampant. Another thing is that, can you imagine someone in prison receiving unemployment insurance? It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There's all kinds of stuff like that happening all over the place. The state of Ohio, for example, the first year they used software like this, they saved, JD, $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion in the first year of implementation. So I'm thinking we could save at least $200 million here in Arizona.
Well, that's a big chunk of change, State Representative Carl Seel. So the question then becomes, where is the governor on this? Have you spoken with her or her people about this?
I have presented this information and these facts to not only my leadership in the legislature, but the governor's office as well, and we're working it out. I'm hoping she's going to be receptive. She has talked about a tax increase, and I'm trying to present to her that we don't need a tax increase, we don't need more debt financing, we just need to enforce the law and hopefully reduce taxes.
Well, let's just take it right now, because Ryan Irwin, I know both in terms of policy and politics, the best thing we can hear is the voice of the people, and who knows, maybe, State Representative Seel, the voices will reach all the way to the 9th floor. Let me again ask you, do you want a tax increase?
I got her number right here, Judy.
Oh, well, as a public service.
As a public service, and it's a toll-free number.
A toll-free number for Governor Brewer.
1-800-253-0883. That number again is 1-800-253-0883.
Well, I think you've given those assembled here and those within the sound of our collective voices a mission, and that's to call the governor's office and say, hold on just a second. Let's look for savings. Let's eliminate fraud. Let's eliminate identity theft. Let's eliminate those things that can go a long way in terms of both healing our health care and also our fiscal health. So we'll get it done.
We want to make sure those programs are there for people who truly and honestly need them. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure we're fiscally sound.
I want to tell you, State Representative Carl Seel and Ryan Irwin, President of Irwin Associates, thanks for coming down. We'll keep an eye, keep us updated. Let's hear it for these two guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Good to have you guys, and I know you'll continue hard at work. Now, as I look around here, and I would be remiss, because the challenge of broadcasting and the spoken word is to try and tell you as you listen what's going on here. And as we look around from our broadcast position just next to the podium where the Tea Party will officially begin in mere moments, I'm seeing so many different signs that are so very, very important. For example, the basic favorite, no new taxes. And then a young man down front has, I have something to look forward to when I grow up. Gazillions in debt. In debt? In debt. Oh, thanks, Mr. President. One of the other popular signs here is, don't tax me, bro. Here's another great one. Free markets, not free loaders. And here's one that speaks volumes for those who have assembled here on the State Senate lawn. Mesa business owner, more taxes create less jobs. And that's the fundamental problem we have. And of course, the ever popular theme of 1984 right down front in full color, stop, you're starting to scare George Orwell. It has gotten positively Orwellian in Obama's America, but you know, it's really in